Germany is on its rise up. The 1935 AVUS Rennen by Johannes Lacroix. Welcome to episode 2 of 80th anniversary of 1935 Grand Prix races. Today's episode, the AVUS race. Here we see the amazing wall of death from that track. And the official program for it, which came out 80 years ago. If you are unfamiliar with this series, it is a series where I review Grand Prix races that happened 80 years ago to the day. Last week was the 1935 Bergamo circuit race, which ran through the streets of Bergamo's capital city in Italy. This week, we take a detour to Nazi Germany to honor the 1935 running of a big event of the time, the AVUS race. Look from the wall of death. Unlike last week in Bergamo, this race was a huge race. It attracted tons of European newspapers. This means that we have a lot to talk about here. AVUS is an acronym. It stands for Automobilverkehrs- und Übungsstraße. It's German for Automobile Traffic and Training Road, which means ATTR in English. Located in Berlin. It comprises the north section of Bundesautobahn 115, which is a highway in the Berlin area. This was the ultimate aero test for Ferrari Alfa and Maserati. Oh wait, before we race, we've got actually two teams to introduce to you. Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union, nicknamed the Silver Arrows. The following image is disturbing to some people. Please skip this scene if you don't like it. Back in the 1930s, Adolf Hitler was Chancellor of Germany and a dictator. The Nazis were under full control of Germany during that time. Hitler did tons of negative things to the Free Germans. The list is endless. Although, there is one thing that he did that was good. Bring two experienced German car manufacturers into Grand Prix racing. I know, if Hitler ever did a good thing, it does sound crazy to you, but this is pretty much basically good. Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union were brought into Grand Prix racing in 1934. Immediately, they became the best with agile bodies, powerful engines, and talented drivers. Let's start off with Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz are the famous inventors of the automobile. Since the invention of the car, they have always gone for the very best. Warning: 1930s Mercedes-Benz is not the same as the current Mercedes that you see with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Since 1926, Alfred Neubauer was the director of the race department of Daimler-Benz AG. Neubauer is famous for being more successful than any other manager in racing history. Here's his famous quote: "Speed was my life." Alfred had some of the most talented drivers in Europe on his team. Here are a few of them. Rudolf Caracciola, the driver who couldn't be more at home when in first place. He's really precise and fast. Quick. Manfred von Brauchitsch, he is mostly in Caracciola's shadow most of the time. And they work together really well. And then there's Hermann Lang. He is von Brauchitsch's chief mechanic right now, and he's currently a reserve. He had his big break in 1937 when Luigi Fagioli left the team. Now we're going to start. Now Auto Union. Auto Union was a combination of four car companies, namely Audi, DKW, Hoch, and Vantere. The union was purchased by NSU in 1968, and in 1985 became what we know as Audi today. The four-ring logo represents the four car companies joining forces to make Auto Union. Oops. There were some amazing, talented, and experienced drivers who drove for them, including Bernd Rosemeyer, the definition of Audi and all German race car drivers. He had the talent of them all. A sad death at such a young age when trying to do the speed record in 1938. And there's Heinz Stuck, statistically an excellent driver, always put in his best effort, his hardest effort, and he raced with Auto Union until the very end. Achille Varzi was the Italian who was a mirror image of Nuvolari. He had such a rapid rise in charisma and talent in the late 1920s and early 1930s, and this brought him to huge fame. Varzi, he was always a member of Auto Union until he retired in 1937. More often than not, Mercedes-Benz were ahead of Auto Union. This is a classic rivalry that will last until World War II. But let's get back on track. 1935 AVUS race. The year before, the AVUS race in 1934 was rather boring, and the teams were afraid tires would wear out easily on the long supertrack. This meant that the race was divided into two heats and a final. For this race, it was Formula Libre, or free formula in French. This meant that the teams could bring whatever they wanted to the race. The Germans had lots of streamlined cars, and Ferrari brought in a special car built by themselves for AVUS, the Bimotor. Now, this is pretty much a blueprint for the stuff that's to come in the 1950s. I mean, they weren't using their own cars yet, but they decided to make their very own car, and they had two copies of it. Heinz Stuck from the Auto Union team was unsure of AVUS, so he used a normal Type B. Heinz Geyer, a part-time driver for Mercedes-Benz, used a streamlined car whose cockpit could only be opened from outside. That's the latch to open it up. There. Is it getting warm in here? How many times is this going to appear in this video? Tell me. Scuderia Subalpina was the team that had the support of the official Maserati company. Forgot to mention that they took part in Bergamo last week. They used the normal 6C34 cars, with star drivers being Philippe Etrancelin and Goffredo Zander. He doesn't act... I did mention that Bernd Rosemeyer was the most talented racer in Germany. But what I didn't mention is that he used to be a motorcyclist. He was hired by Auto Union this year in 1935. This race at AVUS was his debut Grand Prix race. Good luck to Bernd. Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union each had 4 cars, so things looked pretty equal between the two of them. Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union. Things are pretty even. There's the on Friday practice. During the practice for the AVUS race, Heinz Stuck came into his own league. His fastest time was 4 minutes 31.3, 16 seconds faster than the second fastest time of 4:47 from von Brauchitsch. He even reached a top speed of 204 miles an hour on the straights. There's no reason to be afraid, Mr. Hans, the Auto Union team manager. So now, let's get to the starting order for Heat 1. Row 1, we have Heinz Stuck in the Auto Union B, 4 minutes 31.3. Definitely wasn't expecting that. And then there's Bernd Rosemeyer, his teammate, in the Auto Union A streamlined version. 4 minutes 49 seconds. Wish me luck, Hans. This is my very first race. And here's Tazio Nuvolari, the winner of the Bergamo circuit race last week, the Ferrari Bimotor. 4 minutes 51 seconds. The Mantuan has returned in the Ferrari. And here we have Luigi Fagioli in the Mercedes-Benz W25, 4 minutes 53 seconds. Fagioli was also Italian, but he was convinced that Mercedes-Benz were amazing. Then we have Hans Geyer, the Mercedes-Benz W25 Streamline. Hans Geyer at 4 minutes 59 seconds. Is it warm in here? Alright. And then we have Giuseppe Farina in the Maserati 4-cylinder, 5 minutes 32 seconds. Now, how did he mess up so badly? I'm back. Yeah, he is Tazio Nuvolari's apprentice and came second at Bergamo Circuit in 1935. Row 4, we have René Dreyfus in the Alfa Romeo Tipo B Streamline, 5 minutes and 34 seconds. The famous Alfa Tipo. Now, Dreyfus is one of the wealthiest drivers in France. Things were really good for him. And then we have Eugenio Siena in the Maserati 8-cylinder. I'm back with a full-size car. Did it 5 minutes 50 seconds. The last two times are unknown. In the final row, we have Dudley Froy, the Bugatti Type 54. His time is unknown. He's from Britain. And Goffredo Zehnder, Maserati 6C34 from Subalpina. When the flag dropped down, the heats begin. When the flag dropped down, Stuck thundered into the lead ahead of Rosemeyer. With this statistic success, he could easily build up a gap between him and the newbie. Luigi Fagioli was also more experienced than Rosemeyer, having started in the late 1920s. He easily got past Berndt and chased the nervous but surprisingly fast Auto Union of Stuck. There's that small Mercedes-Benz W25 racing through the wall of death, catching up to that Audi. In fourth place was the driver lots of Italians kept their eyes on, Nuvolari. On the second lap, he stopped for new tires, setting him back a little. This is an actual picture of him during that race. He had to stop for new tires here, so that did set him back a bit. Eugenio Siena was in last week's Bergamo race. In that, he lost to Ferdinando Barbieri in a duel between Voiturette Maseratis. This week, he finds himself in a rather similar situation. Foiled again. It was pretty disappointing. And there's Giuseppe Farina, driving the same car as he is, running right past him. Well, not exactly the same car, they were different, but... Tire dropouts after only 25 minutes of heat racing became a problem. Hans Geyer experienced a blowout, forcing him to pit and finish fourth, thus advancing to the final. Yeah, this is high speed. Bernd Rosemeyer had tested Auto Union cars before on the Nürburgring. Once he had a high-speed blowout, which would be much worse at AVUS. Unfortunately, Rosemeyer had a blowout and stalled the engine. So this means that his first Grand Prix was over for him. It's disappointing. Better look next time. Don't worry, Bernd, you have the Eifel Rennen in June at the Nürburgring. Wow, this video is already longer than Bergamo. Hans Stuck never should have been worried, for he has won the entire first heat, leading the entire way. And the honorable mentions. Tazio Nuvolari and his apprentice Farina, unfortunately, came close to advancing, but they didn't make it. So here's the people who shall advance to the final. Hans Stuck, his Auto Union B, Luigi Fagioli in the W25, René Dreyfus, his Alfa Tipo B, and Hans Geyer. Yay, I'm out of the car! Heat 2. Row 1. Achille Varzi in the Auto Union B, 4 minutes 47 seconds. Row 2. Manfred von Brauchitsch, Mercedes-Benz W25, 4 minutes, exact same time. I'm ready for this one. That's pretty much what he was like. Row 2. Rudolf Caracciola, the leader of the Mercedes team in the W25, 4 minutes 52, 5 seconds off of them. I got your back, Manfred. And then, to his outside, Hermann Zuleiningen, reserved for Auto Union in the early concept for streamlined cars. Auto Union A concept. 53 seconds. Why is this car so long? It's because there's a V16 engine. In row 3, it's Louis Chiron in the Ferrari Bimotor, 5 minutes 1 second. Also in the other Ferrari Bimotor. Don't worry, Nouveau, I'll advance. That man from Monaco, wealthiest driver in France. And we have Laszlo Hartmann from Hungary in his Maserati 8-cylinder M, 5 minutes 55 seconds. He's so far off. Things don't look good for him. And then we have Ferdinando Barbieri, who apparently he's been rewarded. The prize was a full-size Maserati, I remember, but he was given a Tipo. Don't understand how he got one, but I guess he did. I'm gonna advance, Sienna. That's not a Ferrari. Then we have Renato Balestro. Now, someone speculated he participated, but I do not think he did. And finishing out the second heat of drivers is Philippe Étincelant, Maserati 6C34. I'm getting old, but that doesn't mean I won't try. When the second heat began, Varzi got ahead pretty easily, but the ever-precise Rudolf Caracciola from Daimler-Benz caught up, and so did Zuleiningen. But then Zuleiningen blew his engine. Well, that's a pretty bad blowout, because this car is really long. And Caracciola and Varzi both took pit stops. You see Louis Chiron having a perfect race. And who's going to come out first? As it was most common, Mercedes-Benz did a better stop, which saw Caracciola take the lead and win the heat, perhaps not surprisingly, because he was so successful. This was just like the last heat in terms of drivers to advance. Some honorable mentions for drivers who didn't to advance. Philippe Étincelant, who is Subalpina's only hope, and Ferdinando Barbieri, who in relation to Sienna has lasted longer yet again. It just goes to show that I am better. Oh, come on. Well, next time the two of them meet up, can Sienna last longer? And the Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union were both in the final, but the former had all of their drivers, whilst Auto Union only had 2. And so here's Mercedes-Benz versus Auto Union 4-2. Things look really good there. So Mercedes-Benz is ahead. This is the final. So, 4 Mercedes-Benz cars, 2 Auto Unions, 1 Ferrari-owned Alfa, and 1 streamlined Ferrari. So here's the starting order of the feature presentation. On the left is Heat 1, and on the right is Heat 2. Heinz Stuck, Luigi Fagioli, René Dreyfus, and Heinz Geier. Hope it doesn't get warm. Row 2, right, Heat 2, Rudolf Caracciola, Achille Varzi, Manfred von Brauchitsch, and Louis Chiron. It looks like we've got French guys. When the flag dropped, Heinz Stuck took the lead again, and Varzi, knowing many strategies in Grand Prix racing, builded a gap between him and the Mercedes-Benz trio of Caracciola, von Brauchitsch, and Fagioli. Does anyone have a good strategy for catching up with them? This is just a hilarious picture. Don't worry, Hans. I know how to leave them in the dust. Fagioli had an idea. He decided to charge his car and go for Varzi. He eventually got him, and then tried to catch up with Stuck. They're always together. And Fagioli has got Varzi. Gotcha! And he's going to catch up to Stuck. Heinz Stuck managed to keep him at bay until a point he was doing 184 miles an hour and his tire blew out. Luckily, he brought his car back to the pits and replaced it. Yeah, that didn't look pretty good, but he brought it back. Pretty nice. This problem became really common. Stuck's teammate Varzi had a blowover too, but he could stop for tires as well. After just 8 minutes, everybody stopped for new tires apart from Fagioli in his mighty Mercedes-Benz W25. I will continue, guys. There's the Auto Union B. Duplicates. We must do a quick stop. And then there's Ferrari. Can't disappoint our French fans. Louis Chiron and René Dreyfus are the wealthiest drivers in France, who both wind up to be on Ferrari. So weird. Up until this point, Mercedes-Benz have had an absolutely flawless weekend. But now with the tire blowouts becoming more common, they finally experienced a drawback. Hans Geyer broke his carburetor a lap after he left the pits, which means that he would be stuck in his car for 16 minutes. Can you imagine? Someone help me get out of here. We'll get you out, don't worry, when one of us retires. 16 minutes later, Mercedes-Benz experienced another problem. This time it was at high speed. It involved the turbo, and it affected the best driver on the team. The reason why there's black here is because there's something rather inappropriate. And there's Rudolf Caracciola, his turbo's breaking. Rudolf, no! So Manfred von Brauchitsch now has to advance on his own. With this in place, Luigi Fagioli was first, Varzi second, and Chiron in third. After Chiron's blowout, he was careful not to do it again. Just like old times, my good friend Louis. They used to both drive for the Bugatti team, and they were best friends on that team. Now they're in separate paths. Fagioli was part of Maserati, so it's kind of like deja vu. Achille Varzi decided to risk his tires by trying to go for Fagioli. He almost caught him, but overdid it and pitted. A similar mistake can be seen in the 1931 French Grand Prix, only Fagioli was at fault that time. Louis Chiron, being wise, going slowly, while Varzi is in the middle of the field. Blast! That means I got to go further! Flashback. Now this is a different circuit, guys. This is Montellier in France, which also had a wall of death. He has his mistakes. I can feel it. There you see Fagioli in his Maserati blowout, and Achille Varzi in the famous Bugatti Type 35. Wow, I was having so much fun. Didn't realize we were almost finished. So it looks like Luigi Fagioli has come to take the checkered flag. There we go with the crowd watching. Varzi and Stuck were second and third until they blew their tires again. So this allowed Chiron, who is taking it slow, to pass them and come second. Too bad. Louis Chiron had proven to be excellent at being wise. Because he had a blowout, he was afraid speed would make it happen again. So, by going slow, he didn't need to pit again. Enzo Ferrari was amazed with how well he performed at AVUS. Surprise of the day was that there were two drivers who didn't pit at all, and one of them was the winner. But when they returned to the pits, their tires were literally dead. Luigi Fagioli, you don't need a new set of tires to win. René Dreyfus, I would have pitted, but I got carried away. So here are the results for the 5th International AVUS Grand Prix. First is Luigi Fagioli, second Louis Chiron, third Achille Varzi, fourth Heinz Stuck, fifth Manfred von Brauchitsch, sixth René Dreyfus, seventh Rudolf Caracciola with a turbo problem, and eighth Hans Geyer with a plug problem and maybe a carburetor problem. I don't know. Well, that was certainly a lot of work to go through. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment or click the like or the subscribe button. I will see you on Sunday for the Man in More, a famous race in Britain.